Lucy Nzalambi. At this point, he's already on the line. Good afternoon, my brother.
Greetings, Brother Zama. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. And how are you, my elder?
I'm blessed, thankful for the privilege to be on air, and special greetings to our listeners wherever they are listening from.
Fantastic. Great to hear.
Yeah.
Well, this afternoon, we want to speak to you about the imposter syndrome. Every now and then as we grow in life, we find ourselves facing this very subtle but very real thing called imposter syndrome. Where it comes from?
Yes.
Is it simply lack of confidence, or is it something that maybe we just want to qualify for the position? Well, today we want to, delve a little deep and understand exactly what is imposter syndrome.
Well, this is something you can't touch, and you cannot see it like you see a human being, or you see my tears. It is definitely something that exists. An imposter syndrome is definitely something that we know. Psychologically, it's a phenomenon in which a person doubts their abilities or their skills and even their accomplishment. They have this persistent fear of being exposed as not qualifying or deserving. And so the word imposter itself, coming from the definition that says someone who pretends to be someone and someone who deceives others to be what they claim to be, but they are not. So it's someone who fakes it. You've heard a statement, faking it until it's real. I guess it comes from that world where people live a pretentious life to the point where they don't feel they deserve where they are because they are a fake. So individuals with imposter syndromes often believe that in their achievements, they are not worthy to be credited for it, and that their achievements are really just a product of some luck, fortuitous luck, or it was never their own abilities to achieve it. And so it might be difficult for others to identify it and to really understand what it is. But in simple terms, I could say it's a sense of inadequacy. It's driven by a fear of being rejected, and it causes or manifests itself as anxiety or stress or even depression. And so it is often experienced by people who are high achievers, people who just are the A students, and therefore they fear being exposed as a fraud to say you don't really deserve it. So it's a syndrome that really is existing. One of the things I can also mention quickly is that it's important to note that the imposter syndrome is not a diagnosable mental disorder.
Okay.
But perhaps it's more common in many people, and many people face it at different points in their lives. And it can best be addressed by specific interventions that an individual can do by themselves, or they can seek support from a professional who can then help them to anchor their thinking around who they are and what they are able to achieve. So it's really important to understand that it's something that if you feel there are certain symptoms which I think, or certain things you should look out for. If you see those things, there are specific individual things you can do by yourself, or you can seek professional help. For example, some of the common characteristics. If you have what we call self-doubt, okay, you doubt your abilities, you doubt your skill, you doubt whether the things you know, you are really the expert and you know them. Okay, even if on the contrary, people say you seem to know more than we do, you still doubt yourself. That's one manifestation. The other extreme end, yeah. So the other extreme end is someone who's a perfectionist. All right, who have a tendency to have almost an impossible high level of standards, such that if anyone fails to meet that standard, according to them, they have failed, and they are very hard on themselves.
Before you before you go further, because I see you're going to be getting now into the basic types of this imposter syndrome, I do want to
No,
just
these are just characteristics. The different types are going to come later. But yes, perfectionism is one of them. But it's
yeah,
also one of the symptoms we look for, in
I
a
see.
person with this syndrome. Yes, go ahead.
Well, what I wanted to check is that anyway, when you started, you said it's something that you cannot see or that you can touch. And my mind rushed very quickly to think, perhaps I should check with you, is this a spirit?
It's psychological, meaning it happens at your emotional mental point, which is really very closely linked to your spirit.
Hmm.
Yes, so it's very close to your being. That's why I said it's very difficult to see it. Just if someone stands in front there, it might be difficult to see, but you look for those indications of how someone reacts to success, to failures, and exhibition of their skills or abilities.
I see. I
Yeah.
see. Okay, now thank you for that. Now you were still looking at some
The
of the
characteristics,
characteristics.
yes.
Yes.
So one of the ways this syndrome manifests itself is a fear of failure.
Hmm.
Failure is common. It happens to everyone. So when you then have your life inhibited or frustrated or disrupted by a deep sense of fear for making mistakes or for failing, then you know you've got this challenge. And most people who procrastinate or who avoid certain decisions are people with this syndrome. So if you see yourself procrastinating and wondering whether should I not, why must I, and maybe trying to avoid the situation, you definitely are exhibiting one potential syndrome. The other one is discounting success.
Hmm.
If you often downplay your achievements or you attribute them to maybe just external factors or just that it's not really about your skills or your hard work. All right. Sometimes Christians get caught up in this one. you know.
Yeah, because as you were speaking, I almost can hear somebody saying humility.
Yeah, no, it's not me. Praise be to God. No, praise be to God. Praise be. Yes, we
Yeah.
know God has a place in our lives. He's the one who gives us the strength. But take note, strength to do what?
Hmm.
Strength to succeed.
Yeah.
All right. And obviously when we have achieved our success, we are not going to discount the fact that God has been with us hitherto.
Hmm.
All right. And God has given us success. Yes, we'll ascribe all the glory to him, but we are also grateful that he would have worked through us. All right. So I know that may be a gray area for most people, but when you succeed in something, for example, Zama, when you get an
Yeah.
accolade of being the best DJ on AWR, are you going to ask God to come and receive it for you? Or you're going to walk up there, you
God,
know,
I'll have to walk up there and receive it.
exactly. It's you who's done it, so go out, receive the accolade. It's fine. If you feel you want to give it to someone, it's okay. But it is you who has succeeded and don't discount your ability to have done that. The other one is comparison to others. Very dangerous one, this one.
Yeah.
I had a case of a friend when they passed their matric. In my country, we call it O level. They
Yeah.
passed
Oh,
with B's and C's, but they got so depressed because a colleague of theirs whom they studied with got A's throughout.
how? How?
They both passed, but because he
Yeah.
didn't pass as much as his colleague, he actually felt that he had failed himself and he had not
Oh,
measured
no.
up. All right. So that's another manifestation of this imposter syndrome. You're trying to make yourself someone, but you're not. And you're thinking that because you've achieved a different result, people are going to start saying you are a failure. All right. The other common one, this one perhaps our listeners need to listen very carefully, overworking. Overworking.
Okay. Okay.
So
That's interesting.
very interesting one. So people with this syndrome tend to overwork in an effort to prove their worth or to avoid being found out to be a fraud.
Hmm.
To say you don't even deserve half of the things you have. All right. And so that's one area. Perhaps the seventh point, I think we're listing them now. Seventh is difficulty to accept praise. You are very uncomfortable and you feel very unworthy when people compliment you. All right. And any recognition of your achievements, you shun it. You want to avoid it. That can actually be one of the ways. And perhaps the last one I would list for today is believing that you don't belong where you are. So you feel like you don't belong in the current role or environment, and that someone is up to grab you and to pull you down. And so you look to people with suspicion because you might wonder if they are saying you are not good enough to be there. All right.
Great stuff, man. Great stuff that you're talking about. I do apologize. I see that our time is literally running ahead of us, and this is exciting. Very important as well.
Yeah.
I just want to check quickly before we get to understanding the basic types of this imposter syndrome. As you're talking, I can't help but think inferiority complex. Is there a difference between the imposter syndrome and what is called inferiority complex?
There could be relationships, but definitely I would classify inferiority complex under this syndrome because of the word we use, syndrome, it means it could manifest itself in many ways. All right. But basically that strong feeling of feeling it because both of them manifest in terms of feeling inadequate and they all manifest in terms of self-doubt. They're both often rooted in negative thought patterns or beliefs about oneself. All right. So feeling inferior is what you talk to yourself about. I'm never enough. I'm never qualified, or I'm underqualified, or I'm unprepared. And therefore you go through a state of, feeling that way. But obviously it may manifest in different ways. So inferiority may be one of them. And by the way, there are different types of imposter syndromes. Just to mention quickly because of time, I think perfectionist is one I talked about earlier, wanting to do everything perfectly. There's also what we call the expert imposter syndrome, where you always want to be seen to be the person who knows everything. Then there's the natural genius, people who feel that their natural talents may not always be adequate. They feel that they need more. People will find out they're not as talented as they think they are. And then there's the soloist, okay? People who believe that only them can do this and do it well and no one else can do it, okay? And they believe that their accomplishment is far better than others. Okay, it's either me or the highway, okay?
Oh my goodness, I can use you. Wow.
Then there's also the super person, the type of a person who feels like you need to excel in all areas of your life, whether it's work, it's family, it's pursuits, personal pursuits, or whatever. They just want to be the super person in everything. And therefore, so the question is, how do you overcome imposter syndromes? Overcoming it can be very challenging, definitely. But there are several strategies I would recommend you take to really deal with this psychological syndrome. The first one is to recognize and name, label, get to know what feelings you have. Recognize and acknowledge those feelings, especially feelings around self-doubt, feeling inadequate. It will be very helpful to make sure you remind yourself that these are common feelings you could have anytime and they've got nothing to do with what you're currently dealing with. Secondly, challenge your negative thoughts. Ask yourself questions like, is it thought best or it's a reality? What evidence do I have that supports this thought that I'm harboring about myself? Do I have evidence that I'm not enough? Do I have evidence that I'm not qualified? So challenge those thoughts with evidence and proof. All right. Many times it's just a thought which has no basis and foundation at all. All right. Thirdly, I would recommend that you practice self-compassion. Be kind and understanding to yourself. Just as you would want to be kind to a friend, be kind to yourself, especially to a friend who's struggling. Tell yourself it's fine. You will be okay. Recognize that it's okay to make mistakes and that everyone have areas in which they also can struggle and they have room for improvement. Number 4, I would recommend that you seek support. By that, I mean talk to a trusted friend, a family member, or a mentor, a coach about your feelings and how it's affecting you. It can be helpful to hear others who have experienced this imposter syndrome before and how they have reassured themselves and have validated themselves and have been able to succeed. Number 5, I would say celebrate your successes. So take time to acknowledge your accomplishment and celebrate your successes. No matter how small they may seem to be, I've always and everywhere I've worked, I tell my team members, we will celebrate our success as if we've won the World Cup. That way, it helps you to affirm and to put landmarks along the way that confirm that you are not inadequate. You are enough. That's a key word. You are enough. All right? And number 6, focus on learning and growing. So instead of striving towards perfection, I would say focus on learning and making sure you grow as a person in a field that you're working in. Mistakes and failures will always come. And I want you to treat them as opportunities for you to learn lesson, but also opportunities for you to improve rather than evidence of your inadequacies. That's very critical. Every mistake comes with an opportunity for you to learn. It doesn't mean you are a failure. Number 7, be an action-oriented person and always take action. Sometimes the best way to overcome this syndrome is to just take action and prove yourself that you are capable. You can do this. So face your fears. That's the other word I always use to people. Run towards your fears. And it might even mean starting to take small steps by setting achievable goals and working towards them day after day and reviewing how far you are going. Take action. Don't be stunned into inactivity. And obviously, last but not least, I would recommend that you seek professional help and support. If the imposter syndrome is significantly impacting your daily life and you really are struggling mentally, emotionally, I highly support that you seek a professional therapist to help you. A mental health professional will be much better. A psychologist or a coach. Find someone who can help you. And you can work out a personalized plan to address the manifestations of these thoughts and feelings and work on an improvement plan to make sure that you are fully recovered from this. Because if you don't take care of it, it can easily destroy your life. So may the Lord bless you. May he lead you. May he guide you. May he help you as you deal with this invisible enemy that has crippled the success and progress and growth of many people. Amen and God bless.
Thank you so much for coming through this afternoon. I do know that those who are listening, it's not all doom and gloom, because the elder here is going to be coming back, I suppose, tomorrow.
Yes.
My elder, thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, my brother.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
LV Broadcasting Network, a divine voice out of Africa. Remember to like, to subscribe, and to click the bell.